How do you go from one of the worst basketball performances in the history of the game, and that is not hyperbole, to beating the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road? We're explaining on today's Locked On Dubs.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? Let's talk about a Golden State Warriors win, but first, the important things. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The ways to check out this show, audio podcast. It's perfect for the go. You can get it on Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube. We go live after almost every single game with shows Monday through Friday. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We also have a free daily newsletter. You can find it out at LockedOnDaily.com. All you got to do is enter your email in that free newsletter with Warriors news, notes, nuggets, also a broad view of the NBA is sent right to your inbox. It is free and also has a link to this show. My name's Charlie Walter, covered the team for the flagship station, 95.7 The Game. Also, their championship run in 21-22 for KPIX. That is CBS News Bay Area. Joining me on the show today and often is Matt Kolsky, formerly of KNBR in 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. On today's show, we're going to discuss a few things. First of all, how did the Warriors win that game? And the simple answer is they played a lot better than they did against Memphis. They showed up. That's the first answer. Debate number two is the youth as compared to going all in for the older players. What's the smartest move for the Warriors here? And, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. There's really no wrong or right answer right now. That's why we debate. And then lastly, the Indiana Pacers are up next. Myles Turner, is that a name that could be brought up? I'm excited to at least scout him and see if he's a player that would fit in with the Golden State Warriors. But let's start off talking about a W. Warriors take down the Minnesota Timberwolves 113-103 in a game they never really trailed. 26-15 was the score after the first quarter. So finally, the Warriors put some points up on the board in the first quarter, and forget just scoring. They hold Minnesota to 15 points with a disgusting starting lineup, really. I mean, Kyle Anderson at the 4, Trayce Jackson Davis at the 5. Not the sexiest thing in the world on paper, but it worked right out of the gate, man. What were your takeaways from a 10-point win?
First of all, good win, right? I mean, good to come out. You needed to win that game after what happened in the middle of the week. I'm going to differ slightly with you on the starting lineup working. And I know I'm a meme of myself on this show, right? But at 4:33 remaining in the first quarter, the Warriors had 11 points. And if you're wondering why I picked that moment, that's when Jonathan Kuminga came into the game finally. After sitting for the first 7.5 minutes inexplicably of a game where Draymond Green wasn't available. They had 26 by the end of the quarter. You know, so do the math on that. And I we'll get more into it later, but I don't think the starting lineup really worked. What it did do was defend
at a high level.
And really, that was the story of the night. More than anything, and I hate to put it this way, but as good of a win as that was, I'm not sure it's anything new in terms of they defended well, and Steph Curry saved their bacon down the stretch when they needed some buckets, right? And Schroeder was helpful as well. But I feel like I'm taking crazy pills a little bit just watching the way the rotations on this team are going when they just so obviously need things that players on the bench can give them, you know? And I don't it's hard for me to see beyond that stuff, even in a win that, frankly, like, they didn't score when they were holding Minnesota scoreless for a huge stretch of the second quarter, so the lead could have been much bigger. They didn't score enough in the third quarter, and they let Minnesota come back into the game. And the couple of moments that they were trailing were in the fourth quarter, because in a game where by all reasonable measure, after the way they defended in the first half, they should have been running away with, instead it was reasonably close. And, Anthony Edwards is a couple shots from a different outcome in that game. And again, thank goodness for Steph Curry. He did his thing in the fourth, right? And he can do that, but the more times you ask him to do that, the harder it's getting. So I just would love to see something different. And the fact that the whole organization came out and said, now is Jonathan Kuminga's time, like a week ago.
It changed quick, man.
He's already riding the bench all the time again for no good reason. I don't know what to make of it. It's so confusing to me, because I've always believed that Steve Kerr and this organization in general will do the smartest available thing, and I just don't think they are anymore.
Well, it's clear to me that they don't 100% want to hand off the keys to Jonathan Kuminga, and whether that's
why say it, right? That's weird, isn't it?
They did it for a week. They did it for
one game, maybe two.
Yeah.
And then he played well, and then forget it.
We'll get into this debate. Let's start off with the players that played outstanding. It's Steph Curry, 31 points in the game, 10 of 21 from the floor, 7 of 16 from three. This coming after Steph Curry fails to hit a field goal. First time in his career against Memphis that he goes 10-plus minutes and doesn't knock down a bucket. And the discourse on X and on Reddit and on YouTube and on the internet in general, and even on podcasts and other shows, is, wow, Father Time is starting to come quickly for Steph Curry and Draymond Green. It's coming quickly, and we heard it over the summer when he had a few bad games in the Olympics. It was, wow, Father Time is coming quickly, and eventually it is going to come. Steph Curry's 36 years of age, so it's hard to really pick what is right or wrong. Like, should we stay put and figure this thing out in the offseason and try to do our best to compete, or do we have to give Steph Curry, the 36-year-old, every single piece he needs, even if that means trading Kuminga, trading first-round picks? You've already gotten rid of the second-round picks. Get rid of Podziemski. Get rid of Moody. All these different things that it would potentially take. Get rid of Wiggins, to land that second star that they apparently covet so much. We can get into that debate. Trayce Jackson Davis, 15 points in the game, 9 rebounds. That's a name we hadn't heard in a while, man. You don't see him get 26 minutes often, and he just kind of disappears. There are certain games where he doesn't get any burn. And then today he shows you that he's still a valuable player. So before we get into the Curry talk, let's start there with Trayce Jackson Davis. What impressed you about his game? And is this someone that you think can make a big-time impact for the Warriors this season?
He can, especially in matchups like this. I mean, he's really valuable, because although he's about the same size, standing on the ground as Looney, he doesn't spend as much time on the ground as Looney, right? Like, he plays very vertical, both offensively and defensively. He blocked a couple shots in that game, I believe. I don't have the box score in front of me. I can remember at least one. And he can get up and dunk on Rudy Gobert, and Kevon Looney, God love him, can't do that. Excuse me. So in the games where you've got legitimate threatening bigs and you need someone to try to neutralize that, Trayce, certainly in Draymond's absence, Trayce remains your best option. And I thought, for him, it's great when the team needs you specifically to come out and show you can get the job done. And look, as Trayce has had some struggles this year, as Pods has had some struggles this year, I've never really lost any faith in what either of them can be down the road. The question just becomes more stark in terms of, can we wait for down the road, or are these guys that need to be used to acquire something different now? And I'll tell you what, Pods played well last night too. And I think Fitz had it, but I think it's like 7 games now where he's shooting over 40% from 3. He looks more confident. He just looks more comfortable than he did for the first couple months of the season. I really think, you can't put it on this, excuse me, but I really think that face mask messed up his season at the beginning. And it took him an unfortunately long time to bounce back. But I feel like we're seeing last year's pods now, and it's been going on for long enough that I'm starting to trust it. So there are good things to take away from this game. It's just there are other things that I think are hard to understand, like Kyle Anderson in the starting lineup.
All right, let's continue this conversation. The talk has always been 2 timelines. How do we incorporate the youth and infuse it into the now, which is Steph Curry, which is Draymond Green? What is the best route for the Golden State Warriors moving forward? How are they going to handle this? We're discussing coming up on Locked On Dubs. Are you missing someone this holiday season and want them to be a part of your Are you missing someone this holiday season and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Maybe gift giving isn't your love language. You overthink it and you wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. If you come from a big family, it can be hard and expensive to buy each one a personal gift for the holidays. We've got the perfect gift for you, everyone. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo for your whole family, and they will love it. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. You can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email with no account or subscription required. Add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere. The touchscreen is a game changer. Swipe through photos to see new photos sent. Tap the heart button to say thank you to the sender. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's skylightframe.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. Let's get into this debate because it is a very fair debate. Kuminga getting 23 minutes. He's getting the same amount of playing time in the game. Is, I guess, a minute more than Buddy Hield, a minute more than Gary Payton, a minute more than Pods at a position where, quite frankly, you need him. And B, you need a scoring punch. And, I mean, that's someone that can go out and get you 25 points. Didn't shoot it well in the game. Didn't shoot it well in the game.
Well, but he came in that 4:33 in the first quarter. He shot it well. And guess what? At the start of the second quarter, he was on the bench again. And like, for a while, I felt like I was shouting into the void by myself about this. Certainly in last year, I was. As this year has gone on, you're hearing it from everybody. I mean, if you listen to the beat writers talk, if you listen to Marcus Thompson and Tim Kawakami, everyone is frankly curious. Why are they handling the kid this way? And I also think anyone who's watched a significant amount of NBA basketball knows that, particularly for young players, particularly for guys without even a college experience, and particularly for guys who've never had consistent trust put in them at the NBA level, it's just not realistic to expect their best when you're jerking them around. And there is no other way to describe what the Warriors have done to Jonathan Kuminga this year. They are jerking him around. He started the season as a starter. He got benched for we don't know exactly what reason, because it's not like the starting lineup improved without him. Then he started playing, 15 to 18 minutes for a while. Then, by coincidence, he had to play a bunch of minutes, had a breakout game, and everyone's like, great, now it's his time. Draymond's going to sit on the bench. We're going to start Kuminga. It's Kuminga's time. Kuminga is next. And 2 games later, he's back on the bench for no reason. Frankly, it's malpractice with his career. And it's hard to know who's responsible. And I don't want to throw out wild accusations because fundamentally, I still believe Steve Kerr is a great basketball coach and a decent human being who wouldn't tank some kid's career because, I don't know, he rubbed him the wrong way in a meeting. I still believe that the front office and the coaching staff are largely on the same page. But, from the outside, if I knew nothing about these people and I didn't have some built-in trust for this organization, what it reads like on its face is a fight between the coach and the GM. That's what it looks like. I mean, if I ignored who's in it and the fact that I do trust Steve Kerr and Mike Dunleavy and even Joe Lacob, it looks like a coach is giving the middle finger to management and ownership, saying, I don't want to play this guy. You guys can suck it. And like,
Well, there's
I'm
two outcomes from that.
cognitive dissonance because I don't believe Steve Kerr would do that, and yet I can't figure out what he is doing.
There's two outcomes that can come from it, right? If that's the case, and we're reading the tea leaves, if it is something along those lines, there's one, at some point, a coaching change that neither of us think is happening, right? I think we're both on board that's not even close.
I can't see that certainly not while Steph Curry's here.
I can't see it happening either. The other thing would be that Jonathan Kuminga is a part of a trade package, and Brett Siegel of Clutch Points, and now other outlets are at least running with the reports that the Warriors are open to shipping a bunch of these young players for that second star, someone to help out Steph Curry, and that's where it gets dicey to me. Because going all in for 36-year-old Steph Curry, 34-year-old Draymond Green, and a coach that's now been with the organization for, 13 years, whatever it may be, I don't know. It just, there's a part of me that's like, okay, Steph Curry is one of the greatest of all time. You may never get another generational player in, the next 20, 30 years. You don't have someone lined up to kind of take over. If it's not Kuminga, you don't have anyone in house to be that next guy. And whether you get him through free agency and acquisitions, I mean, maybe that's a possibility. But there's nothing that says any of their draft picks in the last 5 years is going to become that guy.
No
the issue that
right? Other than Kuminga, they've all been, out. Well, Wiseman obviously was a failure, but other than Kuminga, they've all been, middle to lower draft picks.
The issue that I have, man, is it's just a dangerous game. Getting rid of all your first round draft picks to try and win a 36-year-old, another one, when the 36-year-old comes out and puts on a dud like he did against Memphis. And is Steph still an outstanding player? Yes, no doubt about it. Is he better than Luka? Is he better than Giannis? Is he better than Jokic? I don't think so. I know so. He's not better than all those guys. And could you say, well, you still have Wiggins, you have Draymond, you have pieces around him, and you also have an offense that, when flowing, is poetry in motion. So let's bring in that extra piece that kind of puts the icing on top of the cake. But it's dangerous, man. And I get so many people want to look ahead to 3-4 years and say, screw 3-4 years down the road. We may not be living in 3-4 years. We have no idea what's going to be happening in 3-4 years. You maximize his time on the floor now. But I'll tell you this, 3-4 years down the road, you'll look back at this moment, if they do decide to get rid of all their youth and their first round draft picks for a team that finishes 5th and loses in the second round and does that for the next couple of seasons and then falls off a cliff. And then, it's a disaster and the front office looks ugly. Like, I'm just thinking worst case scenario here. Because what is best case scenario? If you can win a championship, absolutely, you go out there and do it. But is this team that close to winning a championship to where you get the magic wand, you get some pieces and some draft picks and cobble them together, and this team can win an NBA championship? Because if they can't, you kind of got to stay put. And I'll tell you what your get out of jail free card may be down the road. It could be Andrew Wiggins. Like, you could get draft capital for Andrew Wiggins down the road with how good a team deal and team friendly contract he is on. If you're ever to a point where you're like, this isn't working, you can send him out and probably, get a hodgepodge of players to make the money work, send him to Cleveland, get a first or second round pick, couple first, second round pick,
I mean, that's going the other direction.
If it ever gets to that point.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That would probably be down the road a little more, but yes, he is on a team friendly deal for a few years, and that's probably a post Steph Curry conversation, to be honest. But
they line up together, man. I mean, the question becomes how much longer are they going to be competitive? Are they super competitive right now? And I think the answer is yes. I don't think they're as bad as they've been in the last 2 weeks, and I don't think they're as good as they were to start off the 2 weeks. But where are they in that median? Are they a top 5 team in the West, or is this a play-in team? And if it is, I mean, I don't want to say get out the TNT, but you got to explore all options.
You just can't blow it up when Steph's here, right? I mean, there's just no...
Because of sentimental purposes, or because...
Well, are you going to trade Steph Curry?
No,
if you don't, you're going to be too good to tank.
I love this conversation. It's fascinating because the Golden State Warriors are in kind of a precarious spot. They're not bad enough to get out the TNT. Are they good enough to give up everything, a king's ransom for one more piece that will take them over the top. That's the debate. And is there a player right in the middle that maybe you don't have to give up the farm for that could still help you be a better competitor in the West than you are at this current moment? Let's debate. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love, quite frankly, putting together little parlays. I mean, I know this is not the NFL, but the college football playoffs, are you kidding me? All you had to do was pick all those favorites, sprinkle them together, and next thing you know, you got plus odds to win, and I didn't even sweat. You kidding me? Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Prop bets like which players will score a touchdown, how many points will each team score. You get crazy odds if you hit those on the money. Over-unders are always great, and so much more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode is sponsored by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, you can now earn points on rent payments, just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it is completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. Me, I love using the points for travel, and Built makes it easy to turn them into rewards. If you're already paying rent, why not make it work for you? It's an easy one. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNBA, and make sure to use our link so they knew we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today.
I don't see any route to where it makes sense to blow up the rest of the team around Steph Curry, because he's going to keep you afloat. And then you're just a mediocre team instead of a team like on the fringes of competition. Right now, I think they're on the fringes of being competitive.
I agree.
There are a handful of things that could make them competitive. Is there a version of a trade that might be that? Yeah. But I think we've talked about it becomes very difficult. Like, who is the star that's going to help them? So far, the available star is Jimmy Butler. The other guy who suddenly there's some noise around is De'Aaron Fox. You think De'Aaron Fox? I mean, certainly you'd have to put Schroeder in that deal. So it would have to be, like a couple days before the trade deadline.
Where's Red loves that. Let's get smaller. Haddon Fox. I do love Fox, though, man.
I mean,
he's lightning in a bottle.
He's, if you like Schroeder, Fox is like a supercharger version, like much, much better version of that, right? I mean, De'Aaron Fox is great. If it was Schroeder, Kuminga, and Wiggins, because it would probably have to be something like that for Fox, or Schroeder, Wiggins, and a bunch of draft capital, that might actually be intriguing. But I don't know that the Kings would be interested in sending De'Aaron Fox to the Golden State Warriors. That would certainly be a bad look.
It's a big part of it, right? The other team,
but I mean,
willing.
The other names you hear are the guys on the Pelicans. You want to roll dice on Zion's health or Brandon Ingram's level of interest? I
love Zion, but at this point, absolutely not.
You can't trust that.
Maybe 9 months ago, 14 months ago, but
then you'd have him injured, right?
As it continues to go along, like you can't trust that. You can't make some move that is questionable. And I get it.
No,
there's no surefire thing ever, but that's one that could really set you back if you got rid of a bunch of capital and Zion's just on the bench consistently come March.
And in terms of best available fit of a star that we've heard talked about, again, Bradley Beal's name gets mentioned, but if I'm the Suns, I'm not giving Bradley Beal to the Warriors. That seems insane. So Jimmy Butler is the name that sounds the most realistic and helpful to me. And to be quite frank, I don't know how you put together a deal for Jimmy Butler that is appealing to the Heat that doesn't tear apart your team to a level that makes you no more competitive with Jimmy Butler than you are right now. Now, might he win you a playoff game down the stretch? Yes. But will you even get into the top 6, to be in the playoffs for sure with this level of age on the roster? I mean, Draymond had to sit last night. Steph's going to have to sit more. Jimmy Butler's got his own injury issues. I believe he went out of a game just the other day. Like, to answer the broad question, I don't think you make one of these big-time deals unless you really believe it puts you in the driver's seat for championship contention. Maybe not the overall favorite, but top 3 or 4 in the league, not just the West, in the league. If you find a trade that you think makes you top 3 or 4 in the league in terms of pursuing a championship, I say you give up whatever you have to give up because that's how good Steph Curry is and he deserves it. I just don't think that deal's available. And so I think more likely maybe you see something around the edges. But for my money, and I know I'm a broken record, and I know I'm a caricature on this show, for my money, the best way to try to get better is to give more minutes to the potential improving guys on your roster. And those guys are Podziemski and Kuminga and Moody. And the only one that the coach seems interested in giving minutes to is Brandon Podziemski. I can't explain it.
Played less than Jonathan Kuminga in the game against the Minnesota Wolves. He
Yeah,
played 20.
but he played well. Generally over the course of the season, I think he is losing minutes to Dennis Schroeder, right? And that's reasonable. But 20 minutes for Brandon is fine.
The splits on Kuminga are so strange because there is some weird hypothesis here to where when Kuminga plays more than 30 minutes, the statistics just shoot up. And look, it's not as simple as like, hey, play Kuminga 30 minutes and XYZ is going to happen. Here's the result you're going to get. Like, it just does not work that way. But seemingly every time you give him the keys and you say, Kuminga, go to work, like he does usually go to work. And then when you give him that backseat role, you have him coming off the bench. That's usually when you don't really see him shine. It's strange the way it works sometimes. And I do think there's some human psychology there where this guy has to be an alpha. And if you're not putting him in a position to be an alpha, then your best opportunity to get better is to put him in a package deal and bring someone in that you are going to play the 35 minutes a game, that's going to be a star. And if you're going to do that, then do it.
Yeah.
But we're getting to that point, we're right at Christmas, man. We're getting to that point, and I would not be shocked if that's what happened.
No, but not only are they not doing what they would need to do to get him going, they're not doing what they would need to do to make him a valuable trade asset.
I still think he's pretty valuable. I think he's shown enough to age alone. 22
he's the best
years
they
old.
got. He's the best asset they got in a player, right, that they're going to be willing to trade. But you're still going to have to find someone who's ready to pony up big money for him at the end of the season. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is harder based on the way you've handled him. And maybe more to the point, even if his value is high, I'm just not sure I see the trade partner. Maybe it's the Heat, but with Bam, I guess you could go Bam at the 5, Kuminga at the 4. That'd be something. It'd definitely be interesting. Does Jimmy Butler put you over the top? It's a good question. I guess you'd have to think about it, but you're going to have to put Wiggins in that deal to get the money up, or else it's going to have to be like Kuminga, Moody, Anderson.
Wiggins is so damn good. Like, Wiggins has been so great. He's on a team-friendly deal. I don't like getting rid of him.
Neither do I. And if you give up him and Kuminga, who's an athlete? Show me an athlete on this team.
That's the precarious spot you're in, man. And that's why you just got to do what I've been saying all year. And you got to kind of wait in the weeds and hope that they can stick in this thing and hope that the right player becomes available that maybe doesn't cost as much, that just meshes and helps the team get over the top. Because right now, Warriors are 7th in the Western Conference. A half game keeps them, out of the 5 seed right now. And a half game also keeps them, or a full game keeps them out of the playoffs altogether. Right. So it's kind of nip and tuck, and we'll see what they can do. The schedule at some point is going to get easier with how murderous it's been the last few months. But my big question on the show, Kolsky, is can the Warriors win a championship with Steph Curry still being Batman? Or do they need two Batmans? Do they need, do they need Curry to slide into the Robin? Do they need their star to come in that's even better? And because if that's the case, it's probably not going to happen, right? That's going to be tough to do unless you get rid of literally the farm. But the question is going to be can they just add in a Jimmy Butler, get rid of Wiggins and Butler, bring in Butler, and then get rid of some other ancillary pieces that make the money work, get rid of a first-round pick? And does that team bolt up to the top of the Western Conference standings? I say no.
It's tough. I mean, if it was, I'm just trying to design it in my head with a vague idea of where the contracts are at. But if it's
I've heard people say that if Vucevic is added to this team, the Warriors are a championship contender. They say ship off Brandon Podziemski so Steve Kerr doesn't have to play him, add in Vucevic, and all of a sudden you got your big, and this is a team that can compete for an NBA championship. You watch a lot of Vucevic. You say absolutely not.
No, I mean, he's a really lovely offensive player, but he's slow-footed and he can't defend. I don't like it.
And your identity is defense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not it. I mean, I would love to see what Steve Kerr did with Vucevic just because he's the perfect offensive center for what Steve wants to do. I mean, he's a good ball mover. He's really smart. He can shoot. He can score in the post. He can do everything offensively except run. But he's a defensive nightmare for your team defense. Now, maybe with Draymond, I don't know. Maybe you could make that work somehow. I certainly don't think it's a better fit than Jimmy Butler, and I certainly don't think it puts him in better playoff position than Jimmy Butler would.
All right, Indiana Pacers are up next. It's a Monday game. Pacers at 13-15. They're 8th right now in the East. Kind of stagnant after a season where they surprised a bunch of people and went to the conference finals. A name that I want to see, a player that I want to see, is Myles Turner, because he fits what the Warriors are trying to do perfectly, in my opinion, and he is attainable. The question is, will he ever be up for grabs? And I really do want to scout him in this game to see if he's someone that could get the Warriors over the top. That's the most exciting thing for me in this Pacers game. It's can the Warriors beat the Pacers, A, because they need this win bad, heading into the Lakers on Christmas, and then B, does Myles Turner seeing him real time against the Warriors excite me enough to where it's hey, let's get some smoke going on that trade?
I really do think it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. He's a nice kind of natural fit in terms of the skill set he has on offense, and he can defend the rim, block shots,
and works financially.
And he's much cheaper than Vucevic or Butler. So, yeah, it's something I'd be intrigued by. He's attainable from a numbers perspective. Whether or not he's attainable from the Pacers would like to trade him to the Warriors perspective is a different question. I just don't know the answer to that, but certainly something to think about and something to watch. It is something to watch on the Pacers, which is nice.
Yeah, big thing is for the Warriors, keep winning games, keep hanging around in this thing, and we will see. I mean, they got a long time. They made their first deal, man, and we haven't seen a ton from Schroeder thus far, but you have to figure he's going to start picking it up scoring-wise. It's not easy.
You saw it in some moments, though, right? Last night, you saw it in some moments. He can attack the rim like no other guard on this roster. He can draw fouls like no other guard on this roster, and he's not a bad passer either. He can – and by the way, Dennis Schroeder, for all the brash confidence, he's fit into a lot of different teams in a lot of different ways, so I assume he will figure it out here as well.
Yeah, and they have a little break coming up with the holidays and a chance to really incorporate them. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. But the only thing Golden State can do right now, Kolsky, is win some of these games. The schedule is eventually going to lighten up, ending really with the Cavs on the 30th. That's where Murderer's Row finally ends, and you sprinkle in some winnable games, or every game winnable for the Golden State Warriors right now, every game losable. But you'll sprinkle in some of those Detroits, who are actually playing decent, and the Torontos of the world, and the Charlotte Hornets, and some teams that are 7-21 and 5-24. That's kind of what we're looking forward to in terms of some get right games moving forward. But any final thoughts before we say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone, and get ready for the Warriors Monday game against the Indiana Pacers?
Yeah, it should be a good one against the Pacers, and that feels like a nice place to tie a second win in a row together heading into Christmas. On the Christmas front, what I want for Christmas is 30 minutes of Jonathan Kuminga.
We know. Trust me. We've known that for a long time. The question is going to be, it is an interesting, predicament, because it does make no sense that he came out on national TV, or I guess regional TV, but you can find it nationally at this point on YouTube, and said, "Hey, we're going to see what
time
Jonathan
is now."
Kuminga is made of. Yeah, we're going to see what he's made of. We're going to see if he's the guy that can be the next catalyst of our franchise."
Psych.
And the next thing you know, he's getting as much playing time as Gary Payton. So it's fascinating. It's been a fascinating development for a little bit. You could always point to youth in recent years, but at 22 years of age, there are a lot of 22-year-olds in this league making their mark. And he makes his mark in moments, and then other moments you're right, man. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of months leading up to the trade deadline. No question about that.
No question about it. We will see who becomes available, but the only thing you can do is win some basketball games. For Matt Kolsky, Chuck Walter, good to see everyone. Subscribe to the show and leave a like on the way out. This is Locked On Warriors.
Just win, baby. Just win.